Next question. Why do people pick Nvidia over AMD? I recently had a friend choose to pay $600 for an RTX 3060 versus $480 for a 6700 XT since they said AMD is no hold. I couldn't change their mind. I think AMD GPUs have come a long way recently. Yeah, 3060 over a 6700 XT for more money. From my perspective, that stings, but I'm guessing Steve might have a few opinions on why people might make that sort of decision.
Yeah, I mean, for people like us who chop and change between the two and we sort of know what each offers, and we're quite comfortable with the Radeon GPUs. We didn't have the driver issues that we've covered on the channel at length, but people are aware of them, they've heard of them, and I guess it's just a simple human nature thing. Like when you go with a thing, you buy something and you invest in it and it gives you a good experience and you feel like that was a good investment, you're more likely to do that again. And that's why we see people sticking with certain car brands or whatever it may be, because they had a good experience with them. And if they buy a certain car and they get unlucky and it's a lemon, they're typically not going back to that brand. That's when they'll change and try something different. And that's a point we brought up with the 5700 XT. There was a lot of people who were like, I was going to get a 2070 Super or a 2060 Super, but the 5700 XT just seems to offer so much more value, so I'm willing to give it a shot. But then there was the black screen issues and stuff like that. And it was really, AMD sort of blew a chance there to capture a lot of new, customers. So Nvidia, stronger market share, more mind share. They've already established that, and AMD's got to try and claw it back and win that back, and they've got to do that with more enticing products, which is why I think you and I strongly agree that RDNA 2 is a missed opportunity. If they had a lot more stock, pricing somewhat irrelevant, but if they had a lot more stock, people who could, wanted an RTX 3080 and couldn't get one were like, well, the 6700 XT is there for a reasonable price and there's stock, so I'm not going to sit around and wait till, how long am I going to be waiting to get an RTX 3080? I might as well just buy this Radeon GPU and give it a shot. And I actually had a couple of friends who did that. When they first launched in Australia, we did have a surplus of 6700 XTs because of reasons we're talking about here, where people were like, no, I'm not touching the 6700 XT. I really want an RTX 3070. I had a few friends that went with the Radeon GPU, and they've used GeForce GPUs pretty much all their lives. And they're quite shocked by how good the 6700 XT is, by how good the Radeon control panel is, how good the software is. They're expecting some clunky old sort of ancient software that didn't work terribly well based on what they heard on forums or from other people. And they're like, recording gameplay is actually easier and the interface is better than what I had on my GeForce GPU. So I've got a lot of that sort of feedback. But yeah, convincing people to do it, it's another thing because, well, for all the reasons we've spoke of.
Yeah, and it's not helping with the latest feature disparity between Nvidia and AMD. They're already battling all the things that you've said about lots of people already have Nvidia GPUs, brand perception, market share, all that. And then on top of that, Nvidia does have the superior product based on, the performance is very competitive. And then they're adding things like better ray tracing performance, DLSS, their encoder features, which again, probably might need a bit of an update on, to see which one is in the lead, but they do have a very strong encoder support, CUDA support, all these sorts of features that they're sort of, you kind of feel like if you're buying a 6700 XT that you're missing out on ray tracing support, or that you're missing out on DLSS. Even though a 6700 XT does support ray tracing, there is still that perception that you need the RTX GPU to get ray tracing, which is going to swing people over to cards like an RTX 3060, even though it's more expensive and in most games is a lesser performing GPU. So yeah, there's, again, lots of work AMD needs to do in these things, and I totally agree when you say that they kind of missed the opportunity to flood the market with their GPUs this generation when their competitor is struggling to meet the demand from buyers. But hasn't happened, unfortunately, for AMD, and they're just going to have to keep executing to get people over, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're well aware that there's a limited 7nm wafer supply, and they've got as much as they can get, and they've got to produce so many different products, and there's so many different markets they've got to service with that allocation, and they will have done the calculations and worked out where they're best off investing. But yeah, I feel like the Radeon GPUs, it's a huge market, and they could have really capitalized on the current situation and done a lot better there. But they didn't for reasons that probably make sense to them or make sense in general. But yeah, seems to us like opportunity missed.